everyone. My name is Ruth. I am the CEO of Somerset Parent Care Forum, and I have got Chloe from IMPOWER and Fiona. Do you want to be called Fee or Fiona?
Fee's
Fee,
good,
all right?
Ruth. Fee's
Okay.
good.
And Fee from Somerset County Council with us as well today. So they're going to talk to us a bit about IMPOWER and the work that's been taking place locally in Somerset and give you a bit of an update, and then you'll be able to ask any questions. So I'm going to turn off my camera and I'm going to hand over to Fee and Chloe.
Amazing, thank you, Ruth. I just want to say, Susie, your comment in the chat. So your mute is for people to hear you, but you should hopefully, if you unmute your laptop, the volume on your laptop or computer, hopefully you should be able to hear. If not, type something else and let us know, because I'm not quite sure why that would be.
If you go to at the top of your screen, you'll have 3 dots where it says more, and if you go to settings, just check that your sound is set to whatever you're on, so whether it's your computer or whether it's a headset, because it keeps mine keeps defaulting at the moment, so it might be that.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, so let's get going. We have about 45 minutes, don't we? But we're really keen that a good chunk of that is for you to all be able to ask questions. So Fee and I will talk at you for a little bit, and then we'll leave plenty of time at the end. Hopefully you know why you're here, and that is to hear a little bit more about the Somerset Inclusion Tool, Valuing Send, where it came from, how it works in practice, and how it will be used in Somerset moving forward. And then, as I said, the opportunity to ask questions at the end. So this is a very, very quick agenda of what we want to cover. So beginning then with what it is and why it was developed. So the first thing to say is that Valuing Send was developed by 3 local authority areas to begin with, and by the settings and parent carers in those areas. So lots and lots of people engaged, people like educational psychologists, like Fee as an advisory teacher, and also a good number of schools and a good number of parent carers in those areas as well. And there are a number of reasons why it was developed, but from my perspective, I suppose, in working with the tool for a while now, there are 4 that really stick out to me. And the first of those is really to be able to support schools to explore children's emerging needs as early as possible, make sure they're accessing the right support at the right time, the right advice at the right time. So the tool can be used for children with EHCPs, but it can also be used right across that spectrum of needs, and often is done in that sort of early exploration space. And that, that's really, really important for making sure needs are met over time, and that those children can go on to achieve really good outcomes for them. The second bit then is about really being able to help strengthen the conversations that you have as families with the schools who are supporting your children, about their needs, about the support in place to meet those needs. And a little bit later on, I've got a video I'm going to play for you from one of the parent carers involved in that co-design process, and her objective, among the others, was to really ensure that they develop a tool that can help to strengthen those conversations and your experience as families of those conversations. So that's number 2. Number 3 is very much to do with monitoring children's progress, their changing needs over time, and of course being able to be sure that we're really ambitious about their futures. And so independence is something that's considered throughout use of the tool, so in an age appropriate way, in a need appropriate way, but something that's looked at right through from early years up to some of those older young people, sort of post 16 plus. And the final thing then is being able to help schools themselves to take a look at their whole school readiness to meet SEND needs, so where they are, where they're really strong, where perhaps they need to develop further, and think about how they can work towards that over time. The added benefit of that then is being able to help the local authority, so Fee and teams like Fee's, to be able to get a sense of, well, where are the schools as a whole within Somerset, and how can we help to better target, to better tailor support to those schools. So this is what Valuing Send looks like, or I suppose it's what you get to once you've used the tool. So the diagram on the right hand side is a radar diagram that shows a number of different points. So you've got there your areas of need, so communication, interaction, social, emotional, mental health needs, for example. And you'll see that the fifth point is independence, which I've just talked about, and that's really, really important to be thinking about throughout. The lines then on that diagram represent different things. So obviously this one is fictional, is not real, but the lines represent different things. So the blue line is the needs of a child across those areas of need. The green line, the lime green line, that is the readiness of that school to be able to meet need across those areas. And the pink line is something slightly different. That's the home environment. So the confidence of that home environment to support those educational outcomes at home. Now, I won't talk too much about that because the video I'm going to play slightly later on will explain that in a little bit more detail. But the purpose of that, the reason it's included, is because those parent carers in the initial co-design process thought it was the necessary additional layer to help build up a really strong understanding of each child and to help strengthen the conversations about what works at home that perhaps might work at school and vice versa. Now, using this tool can, of course, then help schools to think about where they might have a bit of a gap in their ability to support a child and their needs at any point in time, and think about how they can fill that gap. So how they can make sure that the right support is in place at the right time. Okay, so Valuing Send as a tool then is being used in a number of different areas. So that's not just in Somerset, but a good number of other areas and a good number, so over 1,500 schools nationally. And of course, what that means then is there is lots of shared learning between those schools, the ability to be able to compare and contrast where one school is against another, and draw out really good practice. It's used in a number of different ways, but I've popped some of those common themes here on the screen just to bring that to life a little bit. So as I said earlier, it can be used right across that spectrum of needs and is very often used by schools in that early exploration space to help them get a better understanding of a child's needs. It can also be used then for those with the HCPs, and often is used as a part of an annual review process to strengthen that bit of reflection that's going on, to be able to really monitor that child's progress over time and make sure the support is amended to best meet those needs. Sometimes in the phase transfer process, so to support children as they move between schools, so thinking about the child not just in the context of their current school, but also where they might go on to next and how set up that school is to support them and how they can plan early for them joining that next school. So you hopefully will be able to see that there are two versions of the tool. So there's an early years version and there's also a 5+, and so that's sometimes used from early years into school and also from primary school into secondary school. And then, of course, there are a smaller number of instances where, for example, a child might have been excluded from school, that it can be used to support planning and thinking about what comes next for that child. And all of that then is underpinned by the whole school improvement activity that it can support and drive. And Fiona and I had a really good conversation earlier this week, actually, with some of the pilot schools who were able to talk about how they've used that information to pinpoint those areas they want to focus on in improving and strengthening their offer further. Okay, so this is just a little bit of feedback from some of those parent carers who have engaged with the tool before now. So from that 1,500 set of schools, the really, really important thing to say is that if you remember right back to the beginning, what I was saying is that one of its key design principles was really to be able to support families in conversations about their child's needs and how those are being met in school. And so the emphasis on parent carer feedback is really, really important. You should absolutely be engaged in this process, and that was how the tool was designed and how it's used in practice. So that's really, really important. The quotes on the slide here refer to things like the benefit of the tool in being able to to help them to understand their child's needs as the school is describing them, but also potentially, the support that they might benefit from. Being able to use the tool to help the school identify those additional things that they might need to put in place to meet need. And of course, the what follows from that, which is that that's done then and that's followed up on, and that being a positive experience. And families also commenting on, well, how helpful they think that would be in that sort of early intervention space. So being able to really explore a child's needs as early as possible, and how that can help improve, I suppose, outcomes over time. Now I'm going to try and play this, but you're going to have to tell me whether you can hear it or not. And if you can't, let me share in a different view. Did that work?
I can't hear that, Chloe.
You can't
No,
hear
there's no sound.
That's okay. Let's include computer sound.
Everyone, my name is Carol Kelsey.
How about now?
Yeah, got that now,
Yeah.
Chloe.
Yeah, that's working
Wonderful.
now. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
Like you, I'm a parent of children with SEND, and I've been asked to talk to you today about valuing SEND, which I was involved with in Hertfordshire, which was one of the 3 original local authority areas that were involved in developing valuing SEND. I'm sorry that I can't be with you today, but my diary was already full up. And so we thought it would be better if I did a little video rather than producing some more slides for you to look at. So I was part of the original working group of parents, as I said, looking at this in Hertfordshire, and it was our group that first introduced the idea of the home confidence element as being part of valuing SEND. So why did we want that? For 2 main reasons really. Obviously we knew that parents and carers know their children best, and we knew that research shows that children do better where their parents are active and values part of their education. And that's especially true of our children with SEND, where both families and schools need support and extra information about how to support the children through their education system. So both schools and families also have useful information for each other around techniques and approaches that can work well for our children. And so the children benefit a lot from an improved relationship between schools and settings, between schools and families rather. And so that's why we felt that home readiness option was needed. It is an option, so families don't have to take part in the home readiness bit, but we think it's useful for families to do that because schools can help point them in the right direction for other services and help them perhaps with referrals that they need to support their children in their wider life. So also in the working group, we believe strongly that better conversations need to take place between schools and families around their children's needs, whatever level those needs might be at, so that whether that's SEND support or whether that's with an education for children with an education, health and care plan. So valuing SEND provides, we felt, a more consistent way of having that conversation, both within a school, so from year to year, from teacher to teacher, but also within a local area. So that gives a framework for those conversations to take place between schools and families. The conversations that you have in Valuing SEND focus really clearly on the children's needs and how those needs might be met. And in a way that helps a better conversation than perhaps we receive as families lots of written reports, which are often difficult to understand, have quite a bit of jargon in, and very often don't include anything around our children's independence or are preparing for adulthood, as we talk about, which is so important for our children's future lives. The other thing that we particularly liked about valuing SEND was the simplicity of using the diagram that you've already seen in the slides, rather than always having to be referring to lots of reports or know those reports really well. And Valuing SEND isn't there to replace those reports in any way, but really as a tool to help having those better conversations around the information that you've got about your child. So in conclusion, what I'd like to say is if you get the opportunity to get involved on a personal level in valuing SEND using that tool with your child, I'd strongly suggest that you give it a go. And also, if you're a parent who gets asked to take part in further focus groups or to respond to information or surveys that are sent out about valuing SEND, please do. Professionals, wherever they're working in SEND, whether they're working in education, health or social care, really need parents to help them design and improve the way they work and services. Without us, they can't get the same level of improvement as they can just from working on their own. That can be the same for your individual child and also for your local services across Somerset. Thank you for listening to me today, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of the session. Bye-bye.
Okay, so that was Carol. Carol was one of those parents involved in the initial design of Valuing SEND back in 2019, and has also been involved in thinking about how it grows and develops over time. So how it picks up on things like, you know, best practice in education to make sure it's something that's a living document. So really, really good for you to hear from her. What we're going to do then before we stop for questions is just come on to what's happened so far in Somerset. So how's it been used by a small number of pilot schools, and then also what's coming next, and I suppose why this session is in place. So there have been 2 pilot periods so far in Somerset, one in spring summertime of last year and one in the autumn. The first one focused on a smaller number of schools, so 5 mainstream and 1 special school, and really rich learning about a broad range of cohorts of children, so different age groups, different needs. And the second pilot was focused on phase transfers in particular, so moving between primary school and secondary school in one area. So with primary schools, with secondary schools and some special schools as well. So what that means then is that in those pilot periods, just over 40 schools were trained in Valuing SEND, and 90% of those, 91 I think, in the evaluation process said they'd really like to be able to use that again. And I'm just going to talk you through some of the common themes coming out of those processes, and one of those was around that phase transfer piece of learning, and the school saying how helpful they thought that would be in being able to support secondary schools as they prepare to meet the needs of children joining them and be able to start that conversation really, really early. The second then was around early years. So we've tested so far just that 5+ version of the tool here in Somerset, but lots and lots of people, obviously those primary schools more so, said that they really would like to be able to look at that early years version as well, and think that would be really helpful for planning the arrival of their little ones, and also for those primary schools who have early years settings on site. The third key theme then was about being able to really clearly use the tool to think through and set out all of the support that they are able to put in place for a child, and be able to talk to families about that, and in some cases, you know, reduce the concerns that the families might have. Now, I suppose this relates to what Carol was just saying about the breadth of paperwork that you can sometimes receive and the lack of clarity that you may sometimes have on exactly what is being done to support your child. So the comment there was really around being able to sense check as schools what they are doing and make sure it's all the right stuff, and then be able to communicate that perhaps better than they have been before now. And the final thing then was around that whole school setting readiness to meet SEND needs, and being able to use it to pinpoint things they want to develop in further. So physical accessibility improvements, for example, to their school. Now, what this means is that so far 75 children have been supported using the tool, and that's been a range of age groups, a range of needs as well, and a range of age groups. So right down from sort of year -1 up to your year 11, some of your older young people. And in 29% of cases, the professionals then supporting that child felt that it had either helped them to better understand that child's needs, or to think about, or to better think about, I suppose, the support that might need to be in place to meet those needs. So again, that's really positive, and could lead to really positive outcomes for those children. Now, this is just a bit of a case study to bring to life a little bit what we're talking about and some of the potentials. So this is obviously all anonymised, but it is about a child in year 6 and their secondary school, their local mainstream secondary school. And in this case, what we were talking about was a family who really wanted their child to go onto mainstream secondary. The primary school felt that that was going to be a good move for them. And the tool was used alongside that child's annual review and a collaborative planning conversation with the secondary school. And in that conversation, the secondary school were able to talk to their link advisory teacher, the SEND team, about how they might be able to meet needs and think a bit creatively about what they might be able to put in place to support that child, and therefore to achieve what the family wants in that situation, in that child going onto school. Now, the point here, I suppose, and this is an openness and an honesty that I think is good that the secondary school shared, but they reflected on the fact that they think they probably wouldn't have felt quite the same way without that collaborative discussion, without the information, the more detailed information that they felt they got from using the tool. And so the outcome for that child might have been different without going through that process, and and therefore not sort of meeting that family's ambitions for their young person. So that's just one example. There are, of course, lots of others, and lots of different ways in which it can be used to support planning and used to support outcomes for children. Okay, so just going to come on to what next then. Fiona, I am going to hand over to you, aren't I, for this bit?
Yeah, thanks, Chloe. So because of the positive feedback that we received from schools during those pilot periods that Chloe's just talked us through, the local authority have decided that we're going to take this forward and give all schools the opportunity excuse me, to use the tool in practice as a Somerset Inclusion Tool. And this is going to start with our mainstream primary and secondary schools and our maintained special schools this spring. So we're underway with that already. And we think this is going to make a real difference for the children and families. And so we're encouraging all schools to take part. And so far, we've got 92% of our schools in Somerset who have signed up for the training, which is great. This is also going to be really helpful for us to better understand our schools in Somerset from a local authority perspective, and where our schools have strengths around SEND and where there are areas for them to develop, and helping us as a local authority to shape up that support for schools so that we can help them to tailor the support, or help us as a local authority tailor our support for schools and make sure that they've got the support and the training and development that they need to address those areas. So the training for schools is currently taking place, and as I said, we've got 92% of our schools already signed up, and the last session will be held mid-March. So we're way through that. After this, our schools are going to be asked to complete their whole school readiness exercise, and that will help them to identify their strengths and their areas for development. And in the summer period and beyond, we'll be using this information as a local authority to help us, to help schools. After they've done that, schools will be able to use the Somerset Inclusion Tool with children in their schools, and they'll use the tool in a targeted way to help them to better explore children's needs. And as Chloe's already talked about before, this could include those children with educational healthcare plans, for example, to support the annual review, or it could include some children with SEN support to help them explore child's needs in more detail at that earlier level. But also, as Chloe's mentioned, and we had that really good video from Carol, parent engagement is the key in these cases where schools are using that child-focused tool. And you should certainly be expecting to hear from your child's school if they think the Somerset Inclusion Tool would benefit them. So if that's what's going to be happening, we would like we hope that schools will be engaging with you, and you feel as parents that you're able to engage with that process, because I think that would be really positive. So I think that's that slide. If you want to move us on to the next one.